Hello, and welcome back to the second episode of my podcast. I'm Ankita Sinha, your coach, your cheerleader, and your fellow traveler in the journey of career growth, confidence, and communication. Today's episode is deeply personal. It's about a shift from fear to fearless, from hesitation to clarity, from being silent in rooms to owning those rooms with confidence. So grab your coffee or plug in your earphones while on your walk. This one is going to inspire you to step up, speak up, and lead. Let me take you back 2 decades. I started my journey like many others, a software engineer, excited, ambitious, and quietly hopeful that my work would speak for itself. And it did for a while. I worked hard, I delivered results, but in meetings, reviews, and brainstorming sessions, I held back. Why? Because I didn't trust my voice. I was afraid of saying something wrong or being judged. I thought I was not ready. I lacked confidence in communication. But as I kept growing, I realized something powerful. Success is not just about doing the work. It's about being seen and heard. That's when everything started changing. I stopped waiting for someone to choose me. I started choosing myself. I raised my hand more, took ownership, offered ideas, led conversations. And slowly over time, I became a leader. But the real breakthrough came when I realized my real calling: to help others do the same, to guide professionals, especially early career folks and aspiring leaders, on how to communicate with courage and clarity. And that's how I became a coach. Let me be honest. Technical skills got me through the door, but communication, that's what helped me walk into most of the rooms. One moment that I'll never forget. There was a cross-functional leadership meeting filled with senior stakeholders. I had an idea that could improve delivery by 30%. But my hands were cold, my heart was racing, and I nearly stayed silent. But I remembered the commitment I made to myself. If I don't speak up, I'm choosing fear. But if I do, I'm building power. I shared my idea. It was accepted. Later, my manager told me, "I saw a future leader in you today." That was the day I knew communication is not optional. It's a tool for transformation. Let me share the 5 key practices that helped me move from fear to fearless. Micro wins every day. When I first started my confidence journey, I didn't jump into big keynote speeches or town halls. Instead, I focused on tiny moments, what I call micro wins. It began with raising my hand to speak during our daily stand-up calls. I would volunteer to summarize the team's progress, introduce a new joiner, or even offer a wrap-up meetings with key takeaways. These might seem small, but they were powerful. Each time I showed up, it was a vote of confidence in myself. Every single time I chose to speak, even if my voice shook a little, I was rewiring my brain to believe, I can do this, I belong here. These micro moments built self-trust. And self-trust is the foundation of communication confidence. So here is my invitation to you. Don't wait for the big moment to prove yourself. Start small. Speak up in low-stakes settings. Celebrate those micro wins. Start where you are and speak what you know. That's how confidence compounds. Number 2 is power of preparation. For a very long time, I thought confident speakers were just born that way. But I soon realized confidence is often just well-disguised preparation. So I changed my approach. Before every meeting or presentation, I would sit with a notepad and ask myself 3 questions. What is the purpose of this meeting? What key message do I want to convey? And how can I say it clearly and concisely? I would prepare 2 to 3 bullet points for myself, not as a script, but just anchor points that helped me speak with structure. I also rehearsed mentally, sometimes out very loud, sometimes in my head while walking. It gave me a sense of readiness, like I had already lived the moment. Suddenly, I wasn't winging it anymore. I was owning the space. So prepared speakers don't fear the spotlight, they create it. Number three is about voice training and feedback. This one changed the game for me. One day, I decided to record myself giving a mock presentation. I watched it. And to be honest, I cringed a little. I noticed how often I said, and how my hands fidgeted or my tone would drop at the end of a sentence. But I didn't stop there. I created a habit. I recorded key practice runs. I observed my pace, my pauses, my eye contact, and my tone. I asked 2 to 3 trusted colleagues to give honest feedback. And uh, I treated it just like debugging software. I identified the glitches, iterated, and improved. Over time, my filler words reduced. My body language aligned with my words. And most importantly, I started to enjoy speaking. It felt like a skill I had earned. Just like we debug code, we can debug communication. Number four is about mindset anchors and affirmations. The biggest barrier wasn't in my voice. It was in my mind. Before important calls or presentations, I would feel nervous. My thoughts would spiral. What if I mess up? What if they judge me? To break that cycle, I built a personal ritual. I used affirmations as mindset anchors. I would take a few deep breaths, look in the mirror, or quietly close my eyes and repeat, I'm heard, I'm valued, I'm ready. This simple 10-second pause changed a lot of things for me. It grounded me. It reminded me that my voice had meaning and that fear wasn't the boss anymore. I also visualized success, how I would feel after delivering with clarity, how people would respond positively. That emotional rehearsal was very powerful. Confidence begins in the mind. Anchor it before you speak. And number five is about serving, not performing. This was my biggest breakthrough. Initially, I felt like speaking was a performance, like I had to impress people, and that pressure made me nervous. But when I shifted my lens from performance to service, everything changed. I began asking, how can I make this meeting valuable for the team? What insight can I offer that helps others? And how can I help solve a problem? Now, it wasn't about me looking smart, it was about adding value to the room. That shift removed the ego and reduced fear. Because I was not there to win applause, I was there to spark action. And when your focus is contribution, confidence becomes your default state. Speak to serve, not to impress. That's how leaders speak. Now that you know the practices that helped me go from fear to fearless, let me show you how they actually played out in my day to day work. Because building confidence is one thing, but exhibiting it, that's when the transformation becomes visible to the world. So, during meetings, I stopped shrinking and started shaping conversations. There was a time when I would overthink every word before speaking in meetings. But once I began anchoring into self trust and preparation, I shifted. I started asking clarifying questions, even when others stayed silent. For example, in a critical release planning meeting, the team seemed confused about timelines. Instead of waiting for someone senior to ask, I stepped up and said, can we walk through the dependency chain again? I want to make sure we're aligned. That small moment gave others permission to speak up too. I wasn't speaking for attention. I was speaking for clarity. And clarity breeds leadership. When I used to give presentations, I used structure to drive impact. Earlier, my presentations were overloaded with slides and details. But as I grew in confidence, I simplified. I started using a simple, powerful structure. What is the problem? What is the solution? And what is the impact? One time, while pitching a process improvement idea to leadership, I didn't just say we should automate this. But I emphasized it by saying that here is the recurring problem we face every sprint. Here is the solution that I propose, and I feel it would be the best fit. And here is the time and cost it can save. So my delivery became focused. I spoke slower. I made eye contact. And the result was my proposal got approved, and I was asked to lead the implementation. So confidence is not loud, it's clear and outcome driven. Lot many times in team leadership, I facilitated with presence and empathy. When I became a team lead, I realized confident communication is not just about speaking to people, it's also about listening with them. I began facilitating daily stand ups and retrospectives not just as a task, but as a connector. In one retrospective, tensions were high after a failed sprint. So instead of ignoring the discomfort, I said, let's take a breath. I know this was tough, but let's talk through what happened without blaming, but only learning. That moment creates psychological safety, and psychological safety is the birthplace of innovation. I wasn't the loudest person in the room, but I was the calmest, and that presence was felt. That confidence too. And lot many times I was involved in global stakeholder calls. I adapted to that, yet I stayed authentic. Working in the IT industry for almost 2 decades, I've been on calls across time zones with people from Sweden, US, India, and I quickly learned communication confidence also means cultural intelligence. I became more mindful of how I phrased things, how I paused for translations, how I built rapport with global stakeholders. But I never dimmed my voice. I held space for others and also claimed my space. I remember in one call, a senior stakeholder challenged our project strategy. Earlier, I would have stayed quiet, but this time I respectfully said, I understand your concern. Let me walk you through the context behind our decision. Perhaps we can find common ground. That balance of respect and assertiveness, that's what confidence looks like in global collaboration. Lastly, in my coaching sessions, when I became a mirror for others. Today, I coach professionals who face the same fear I once did. When they tell me I get nervous speaking in meetings, I say I know exactly how that feels, and I also know how to change it. I don't just teach them frameworks, I model it. I let them watch how I hold space, how I speak with presence, how I ask better questions. And when I see them light up, when they're when they own their voice for the very first time, that's the moment I know my journey was not just for me. It was meant to light the path for others. So confidence is not volume. It's ownership. It's the decision to take your seat at the table and bring your voice with you. And the beautiful thing is, once I took ownership of my voice, I naturally stepped into ownership of my leadership. To everyone listening today, maybe you're still doubting your voice. Maybe you feel afraid to speak up at work. I want you to remember, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present. Start with small wins, speak in safe spaces, ask one good question, share one smart idea, and keep repeating. Because communication is not just a skill, it's a muscle. And the more you use it, the stronger it becomes. If I can move from fear to fearless, so can you. If today's episode resonated with you, do share it with someone who needs this message. And if you are ready to take your communication to the next level, check out my 3-day course, The Mastering Communication and Confidence Blueprint, where I take you step by step through building clarity, courage, and communication power. And I challenge you to take up my 90-day Career Catalyst Hackathon. Until next time, own your voice, lead with confidence, and keep growing. Thank you.